4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Yeah. I think there will be another mass casualty attack against the United States. I don't know when. I think it'll be more devastating with deadlier weapons than the last one on 9/11. I think we have to be prepared for that. And I think we have to play a prominent role in the Middle East, support our friends, oppose our foes, and we've got to be here at home very strong from the standpoint of the military. Barack Obama doesn't believe any of those things, and I'm looking for a candidate on our side that I can support for the Republican nomination.
All right, folks. By the way, it's Wednesday. I inadvertently said it was Tuesday because for some reason my brain froze on Tuesday. Anyway, Jennifer Rubin is here. And welcome, Jennifer. And I say this to you all the time. I love the fact that if I don't log on to the Right Turn blog at thewashingtonpost.com every half hour or so, I'll probably miss one of your great pieces. So one of the last things you wrote was a piece called Terrorism Deniers Exposed, and you talk about the great service that both Dick Cheney and his daughter have done in talking about the threat that we face from terrorism in this country.
Exactly. And one of the things specifically that they did was raise awareness. Frankly, I hadn't heard of it until they mentioned it, of a study that was done at the Rand Corporation, no relation to Rand Paul, but the Rand Corporation, that looked through some 600,000 documents, declassified and unclassified material, and created, in essence, a database of terrorist attacks, terrorist groups. And they have found a huge explosion in the number of these, the potency of these, the territory that is controlled by these, all under Barack Obama. And I think most Americans are not aware of that. And for the president to continually come out and say we've ended wars or Al-Qaeda is on its heels, those are nothing but lies. And I think for us to proceed as if the danger of Al-Qaeda is behind us because it's been so many years since 9/11 is really foolishness. And I think the candidates should and will discuss this 2014, 2016. We really have to relook at our military budget. We have to make sure that we're not tearing down parts of our anti-terrorism architecture that works. And I think we need to get serious about what positions around the world we need to be in, even if we're not in combat, but at least to be able to source information, to get intelligence, and when necessary to use drones. And we can't use that intelligence if we're not there gathering some of it. And that was one of the primary purposes, or primary benefits rather, of having troops in Afghanistan. When we pull out entirely, that's going to go away. And to the extent to which there are plots hatched in both Afghanistan and Pakistan, we're going to be waiting for them to arrive on our shores, I suppose.
Yeah, very, very frightening. And you wrote another great piece about, and it picks up on your colleague Dana Milbank's piece, and it says, yes, Obama's foreign policy could get worse. And that, you know, it's hard to believe, but you make great points in there.
Yeah, it really is frightening. And you don't have to be really too creative to come up with them. It's very easy to see that from this enormous swatch of territory smack dab in the middle of the Middle East that is going to be run now by, in essence, an Al-Qaeda group, that you could have many, many plots, far more serious than 9/11, in part because we've also ignored the spread of chemical weapons throughout Syria. We didn't intervene when we could before the terrorists arrived, and we've done nothing to help rein them in since they got there. So I think we're talking about large territories, large areas around the world where terrorists will have safe haven, where they will be able to make plots, and with, as I just mentioned, the report showing the proliferation of these groups and the weapons and the territory that they have access to, we are living in extremely dangerous times. Moreover, people like Putin, folks like the gang-running China take advantage of these situations to grab other countries, to grab territories, to pressure our allies around the world.
Well, the administration, claims that Ukraine was a great success. I guess they just wrote off Crimea. Goodbye.
Yeah, there you go. Take a little bit of Crimea. What's next? Lithuania? Some of the Baltic states. We have signaled in so many ways that we are so deeply unserious around the globe that I think our allies have really completely lost faith in us. A good example is Egypt, which now no longer relies on the United States, doesn't listen to us, is sort of going out there on its own, funding some Sunni radical groups because they feel completely abandoned by the United States vis-a-vis Iran. Terrible human rights record. We've completely lost influence there. There's the old expression, the guy is a bastard, but at least he was our bastard. Well, that's what we could say about Hosni Mubarak. Now we've got a guy who won't listen to us, and he's more of a bastard than Hosni Mubarak.
Well, and he won't listen to us because after Mubarak, we wanted Morsi, and when they displaced Morsi because he was worse than Mubarak and was wanted to put in Sharia law and was trampling on their constitution, even in the face of that, we still wanted Morsi as part of the process.
Exactly, and Egyptians are convinced, and I would say with very good reason, that we wanted the Muslim Brotherhood in power, that we are allied with the Muslim Brotherhood. That's how crazy our foreign policy has been, that we have convinced an entire country, with good reason, that we are allied with a surrogate of Iran. So our policy is so confused, so haphazard, and really more than anything else is as if the president has ignored this enormous explosion of al-Qaeda. It makes the growth and the emergence of al-Qaeda in the Clinton years pale by comparison. And, Bill Clinton and to a degree George Bush could be forgiven for not foreseeing 9/11 because we really hadn't dealt with something on that scale. Now there is no excuse for it. We've had 9/11. We had 9/11 twice, 9/11 in 2001 and 9/11 in 2012. And we weren't prepared for either of those. So what's going to be the excuse when something horrible happens or another foreign policy tragedy occurs because we're preoccupied elsewhere and people doubt the staying power and the credibility of the United States?
Well, maybe that should be one of the 20 questions, and I didn't read all 20 that you had for Hillary Clinton, but before we get to that, I want to focus on another piece that you wrote about Israel. You talk about the United States leading from behind. You talk about Israel leading from the front in their war with Hamas.
Yeah, about the only people on the planet who are doing anything about Iran and its surrogates is the tiny, itty-bitty little country of Israel. They are taking on Hamas full bore. Hamas, of course, is paid for by Iran, supplied with weapons by Iran, which Israel displayed earlier in the year. There's another Islamist group called Islamist Jihad. It's very nice of them to label themselves so clearly, by the way. Islamist Jihad that operates in Gaza, that's really a completely owned subsidiary of Iran. Israel is taking those people on. They're taking international guff. They're putting their own people at risk in order to defeat Hamas. Moreover, when you get to the big negotiations in Vienna with Iran over nuclear weapons, who believes the American military threat at this point? It's only Israelis' military threat that I think would give Iran pause. So who's the superpower here? Who's taken on Iran? Who's not only defending their own national security, but taking on the security of the West and the United States? It's Israel. This is just bizarre.
And by the way, you point out something that is also bizarre, troubling, bizarre, frightening, and really needs to be paid attention to by all Americans, especially American Jews, and they're 90% Democrats, so they might be in these numbers. You point out that the latest poll numbers show that 73% of Republicans today favor Israel, sympathizing more with Israel than the Palestinians. 73, that's up from 68, and only 44% of Democrats do, which is actually down from April, even though Israel's in a war right now.
It's stunning to me, and on one level, I think, well, I guess it's pretty remarkable Nancy Pelosi is as pro-Israel as she has because her party has turned against Israel. On the other hand, again, I plead with not only my fellow Jews, but with pro-Israel Americans, whatever their religious affiliation, wake up. Which party is going to be more supportive of Israel? Which party is going to put the screws on Israel and which is not? And I think we've had just about the worst president we've ever had vis-a-vis Israel with this president, who followed one of the best presidents vis-a-vis Israel, who was George Bush. So I think it couldn't be more clear. And it's going to notice how quiet, by the way, Hillary Clinton has been because of all this, because she doesn't want to speak up for fear of unnerving her base.
Well, you mentioned, I want to interrupt for time's sake here, you did write a piece about the 20 questions that Hillary needs to answer, and one of them is, should Israel exercise quote-unquote restraint or proceed until Hamas is seriously disabled for a number of years? And I wonder what she would say if someone does ask her that. Maybe, I don't know if Jon Stewart did or not, but I doubt it.
Yeah, exactly. The one question that I forgot to put on this list for the 20 questions for Hillary is, are you kidding? Isn't that the ultimate question? She expects us to believe all this nonsense that comes out of her. How, the Bush administration required us to get out of Iraq at the end of 2011. Nonsense. How our real problem is that we haven't been good at telling our story. She was in office for 4 years. The president has been there for nearly 6 years. If there's any storytelling to be told, it's these people who continually, by the way, run down America whenever they travel around the world.
Absolutely. Jennifer, great to talk to you. And folks, check out WashingtonPost.com, the Right Turn blog. And again, just because you checked it once during the day, oh boy, if you don't go back, you're going to miss all the other great pieces that Jennifer writes on that day. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Jennifer Rubin, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, let's some of the other 20 questions. Was it a mistake to limit talks with Iran to nukes? How do we lift sanctions so long as Iran's proxies wage war on Israel? Should John Kerry return home and ask for sanctions if there's no deal by July 20th? By the way, they're talking about extending the July 20th deadline because our good friends Iran, they need a little bit more time, All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to be joined by Noah Rothman, Associate Editor for HotAir.com. Don't you miss it.